Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. Are we doing our staff and campers a disservice by not better managing the expectations around their phone time at camp?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Why spend hours on your schedules only to find mistakes and missed activities for your campers? Let Camptivities do the heavy lifting and help you create the best schedules yet, without the mistakes and in less time. Come check out Camptivities, specifically designed for camps by camp people. Find out more at camptivities.com.
Remember what sparked your passion for camp? Ultra Camp knows it's about the people, not the paperwork. That's why they built a platform to simplify your camp management. Learn more at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Ellison. I am glad to welcome you to this show brought to you by Ultra Camp and the Camp Recruiting and Retention Playbook from Joanna Warren-Smith and me. I am a summer camp consultant specializing in getting parents to open, read, and act on your emails.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm also a camp consultant specializing in making sure that camp spaces are safe for everyone, regardless of how they identify.
Awesome. I am Max Claman. I am also a camp consultant. And I really work with camps both during the off-season and during the summer to make sure that their personnel and programmatic outcomes are the top level that they can be with regards to staff training and camper experience.
Welcome to CampHacker, Max. We're grateful to have you.
So grateful.
Thanks. Thrilled to be here.
Max, what's your camp story? How'd you get connected to camp and why are you doing it today?
Yeah, that is a great question. So camp has been in my life for a very long time. My parents attended different summer camps. My dad worked at camp for close to a decade. And I was fortunate enough to get to attend that camp and then work at a number of camps. I've been a camp director in a day camp setting, in a residential camp setting, in for-profit settings, and nonprofit settings. So I've really had an opportunity to touch on a lot of different pieces of the camp world, both privately owned, property held camps, and then camps on campus, which I was fortunate to run a family of day camps in the New York City area for over 7 years. So we had multiple facilities, but we owned none of them. And so I've had a chance to work with thousands of campers and also thousands of staff. And it's been a really cool opportunity. And then about 7 years ago, made the switch alongside my camp career at that time into working with other camps as well. And then have really started leaning into just the consulting side here these past 4 or 5 years. And it's been really cool to kind of get to see many of my friends who run camps now I get to actually watch them do it, which is cool. You don't really get to do that when you're running your own camp.
I love that part too.
That's awesome.
I love that part too. Max, what do most people hire you for?
Yeah, it really runs the gamut. I would say during the off season, a lot of what I do is with regards to content design and review. So working primarily with orientation programs, in some cases, scheduling, like camp scheduling, things of that nature, interviewing and kind of the human resource side of things. And then I would say during the summer, it's pretty much strictly staff orientation and in some cases staff training programs. There's that, I always like to say, a very subtle but significant difference between orientation and training. So I'll do a lot of orientation pre-summer and a lot of training in summer.
That's perfect. Well, again, we're grateful to have you. And in fact, our topic today is one that you had suggested, which is I'm going to take a moment to say, everybody listening, please suggest topics. We're grateful to have new ideas. We're always grateful to have people guest, but you're welcome to suggest a topic. We won't make you then come and talk about it, but we're glad that Max is willing to do so. Max, you wanted to talk about how we deal with technology and phones at camp. What was the impetus of that?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, I can't really take too much credit for it because this really was born out of a lot of conversations I had with camp directors in summer 2023.
Mm.
A little bit 21, a little bit 20, but those were kind of funky summers to begin with for a lot of people. And so when we got to summer 23, I was hearing from so many camp directors that they felt like there was this really disproportionate tilt when it came to behavioral issues at camp, focusing on like that first 5 to 7 days of the summer. This was happening at day camps and residential
Yeah.
camps. I would say probably skewed a little bit towards the residential side in terms of people I was hearing from about this. But it really kind of piqued my interest. In the past, we had kind of the past 2 years prior to that, we had written it off as, oh, well, it's been the pandemic. People don't have their social skills and those muscles. They need to start flexing them again.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going away. And in some cases, it was getting worse. And it was this, what's going on this first week of camp that is causing this adjustment period for campers, some of whom have been great at this in the past, or seeing homesickness with teenagers more so than we were seeing with 8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by this and started to kind of just explore and talk to other camp directors, in some cases even camp staff who were on the front lines of it, and really try and get a handle on what the difference was, what's happening, what do we think is happening. And over time, I didn't really get a clean answer for myself, and then just blindly got lucky. And I encountered someone who has been basically on the front lines, really working to help families who feel like they have children that are struggling to detach from technology. And there was an article written, not by this person, but kind of at the same time, that basically was proposing this theory of, are cell phones the new cigarettes?
Right.
And 50 years ago, people weren't talking about cigarettes in necessarily a negative way. It was like just starting to shift. And now, obviously, over time, we've learned what some of those side effects can be, what some of those hindrances can be. We don't know yet necessarily for phones because they weren't necessarily as like ubiquitous or omnipresent in society, and now certainly with kids.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got to thinking, I was like, what if this first week, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not qualified to say what I'm about to say, but
That's what podcasts are for.
Just swing big. Swing
make sure
big.
that this is something everybody understands more as a speculative thought than it is an assertion of fact. And so I started having the thought of, what if this 5 to 7 day period where we're seeing this spike in behavioral issues, this first week or so of camp, what if this is akin or parallel to withdrawal-like symptoms?
Of course.
All of a sudden, you go from having this phone in your hand, in your pocket, that you use to socialize, that you use sometimes as a crutch, as a support system, as a distraction, etc. And it's just gone.
Yeah.
So you have gone cold turkey. And I find that to be something really worth exploring. And so again, I got lucky, found somebody who has been doing this work broadly, not necessarily camp focused, reached out to her, said, let's talk about this. Turns out she worked at camp for like a decade, met her husband at camp, like the whole thing. And I was like, oh, we got to do this. And so wound up writing an article about it, wound up doing a conference session about it. And I'm really trying to just dig deeper and explore what are the things that camps can do and what are the resources camps can create and provide to families that can really help set them up for better success before and during the summer.
Yep. Yeah, all of our staff and campers are basically showing up with a dopamine machine in their pockets that we then say, no, you can't use this. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the implications at camp, because both Chris and I have a lot of experience with just 1 week sessions. So it's not even those that have a week of settling in and then another week or more to kind of fully embrace camp. And so I'm interested in that topic too. But I also want to make sure we talk about how camps can front load this to make it a better transition for talking to staff directly or talking to parents about their kids. I like your thinking face, Chris, where you're going.
I have so many thoughts about this. One, in running 1 week sessions, I think it's actually easier for us than if it was a longer session. Because like our kids come because we collect their phones. They enthusiastically give it to us. Like they cannot wait to give it to us. And they'll even be like, oh, can you charge it for me so it's ready at the end of this? Because I'll want it at the end of this. Like they anticipate having the space without the technology. The longer sessions, I don't know. I imagine it probably goes up and down as they the longer they're there, they're going to fall back on old habits. This kind of conversation, though, always interests me because I'm always, and Travis, I'm always struggling with how we think about technology in this industry,
Mhm.
like, and how we are, for lack of a better word, we're really reticent to sort of accept it as part of our programming writ large. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Full stop, maybe. I think that's just my thoughts. It's always,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about that. And I've been cheating while we've been talking. I had this other window open and I asked the AI, can you give me a list of all the movements, all the things in the 20th century that parents have been in uproar about? And the
Mm.
list is extensive. And I said, give
Yeah.
me the list of all over the world, other countries,
Mhm.
very long list. And then I asked, has any of this furor ever slowed down the adoption of these technologies or the
Yeah.
advancement of these social movements? And
Mhm.
he was like, no, in fact, it usually enhances them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I just, when we talk about digital detox, I love that it happens,
Mhm.
right? Because I think it's important for kids to experience, especially with what we're doing,
Mhm.
like experience communing with each other, communing with nature, if that's your judge, that's fantastic. However, I wonder if 10, 15 years from now, this conversation won't be radically different. For
Mm.
instance,
Mhm.
if you told me that I needed to take a week off from, say, riding in cars,
Mhm.
it'd be shocking. I wouldn't be able to interact with my life. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about that.
Yeah. And I think it's actually it kind of helps highlight why this is interesting.
Mhm.
Because to your point, many of the campers and even staff that we're talking about are very excited at the prospect of giving up the phone but what I'm looking at this really as is this is like a physiological chemical thing
Yeah.
that we're
Yep.
experiencing, right? Like you said, it's that dopamine hit that exists and we're taking that away in an instant.
Mhm.
That's like, I agree with you. I know some camps that have esports programs now, right? I know some
Oh,
camps
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
that
I've seen that.
use iPhones to make their parent phone calls home or use
Mhm.
iPads to allow campers to FaceTime home, right?
Mhm.
Those are all advancements, I would argue, in many cases, enhancements to their program and what they do.
Mhm.
It's the understanding that alongside this technological advance that we have been seeing rapidly, we are dealing with the first ever generation of campers who have only ever lived a life where these kinds of phones have existed, right? Even our staff right now were born prior to like the real advent of like the iPhone and like the smartphone as it
Mhm.
kind of now exists.
Yeah.
But for our campers, they've only ever known this and now it's gone.
Yeah.
And for our staff, even who have become very used, right? That digital native term, right? That gets used so often.
Yep.
Digital natives struggle physiologically, internally, psychologically, in some cases, to adapt when that stimulus is removed. And that's the piece of this that I think, and that's the approach really that I look at it through. It's not about how do we curtail technology.
Yeah.
It's how do we acknowledge the fact that technology has an impact on us.
Which I
So your
love.
point is
I
spot
love that
on.
question. Yeah.
And I think that is an important lens through which to view this because it's not anti-technology.
Mhm.
It's really about how do we ourselves as humans adapt to the like kind of ebb and flow of technology usage in our day-to-day life. To go from
Yeah.
100% to 0% may not be sustainable. And we're seeing evidence that it isn't.
I love that reframing because I think too often in the industry we talk about black and white, like 0 to 1, like you have it or you
Yeah.
don't. And then people are quick to go to either side and tout the virtues of either side. But it is what you're saying. Like if it is, let's say physiological for a second, right? If it is like, okay, separating this from them is going to hurt them in some way, then the real question we should be asking is how do we integrate this stuff into our programs? Either in a way to step them down or to normalize it because it's already normalized for them. And I often think about this, especially since the pandemic. But there are a lot of camps, and I'm saying this non-judgmentally. There's a lot of camps that have like a no technology policy. Work, right? Fine. But I often wonder about the relationship those camps are entering in with those children because you want them to trust you and love you. And they come there and you're implying that technology isn't good for them, then they go back into the world where they use technology every second of every day, especially post-pandemic. It seems particularly hypocritical for adults to be like, technology is bad for you, but it's okay if you go to school on it for 8 hours a day, and then to like de-stress, you watch your iPad for 6 more hours. I wonder about those relationships and how we maintain children's trust if we aren't honest about what they need to be successful in every space now. Which, I mean, regardless of how you feel about these things, this is what children need to be successful. Sorry about it. Not even though I'm not sorry about it.
I well, there's so many other pers to bring in other perspectives on that. I think that it is I'm a very techie person, but I think that there are some valuable lessons for kids in learning how to deal with people in particular without a screen in between them. We had a really interesting experience about 10 years ago. We had a client who was one of the first camps who openly said we let kids have their phones. And they got on interviews on the news and stuff because they were doing this. They had a 3-week session. So the kids had a week without their phones at the beginning of their 3-week session to the camp felt to make community and really get to know the kids around them. And then on Sunday morning of the second week, they all got their phones back. And Beth and I were at this camp for the 2 days before, and then that day when their phones came out. And it was fascinating to watch the change in the culture in that day. And it seemed to really be like drastic change and then sort of come back in alignment with everything, which is what the camp directors had kind of proven would happen in that in that setup.
That's wild.
Hmm.
And it's so, for some camp people, right, it's so antithetical to the experience.
Yeah.
And they like
we're
have a
making some people
visceral
very mad today.
rejection. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Did you watch, was there like a split? Like, were some campers in that setting like, I don't want this right now, I feel like they've like adjusted, or was it everyone was like in there like
Running.
social summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
everyone,
give me the phone.
everyone was definitely. There was no sort of public. I mean, we talked to kids on the morning before, like they got their phones at like 11 on a Sunday, and so we asked them like, what are you looking forward to? What are you anticipating? And there were some who were quite anxious about it, but they were still in a hurry to get their phone back when the
Yeah.
moment came. So it's just such a
And it's like, again, speaks to that, is that at all, again, not qualified to say something like this, but like, is that parallel to something like addiction, or like,
yeah.
Something where you're like, I need that fix. I've been waiting for a week. Or maybe it is that weaning off period, or having once a week during the one day a week, I should say, during the summer, one day a session, if you're a short session camp, where that is allowed as like a starting point for people. It's, again, we're obsessed. Whether you are a 1-day program or a 40-day program at camps, we are obsessed with routines. That's like what every camp director is always preaching,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And imagine going from we know, right? Studies have shown children ages 10 to 12 spend approximately, the average 10 to 12-year-old spends 5 hours a day on a screen of some kind, not in school. So outside of school hours, 5. And then when they go 13 to 18, their teenage years, the average is a little over 7 hours a day, not in school, which is wild because like, when are they sleeping?
Yeah.
But also
They have it in bed with them. You know that, right?
And so that, again, in the world of routines, that's a whole other layer, right? If you're using this to help fall asleep, or not even help, but it's just part of your nighttime routine, and now you're going to a sleepaway camp, you're at your residential program where you're in the middle of the woods, you're in a new setting, it's already spooky, especially if it's your first summer. And now all of a sudden the adults, to your point, Chris, are telling you, oh yeah, you can't have this thing that you normally go to sleep with.
Or you don't need this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Even more so. And so that in and of itself is wild. The fact that that number, by the way, is an average, meaning that there are definitely going to be children who are in excess of that 7 hours a day is, I mean, we're all doing it too, right? The irony of like saying to children, hey, can't be on your phones, or staff can't be on your phones at camp. And then we immediately whip out the iPad to get on CampMinder, right? Or whatever it is. And I think there's, a problem with that, because a study came out last year, I believe it was 23 that it came out, that children who spend 7 hours or more on a screen, on their phone, are twice as likely to suffer from depression or anxiety. So we're now saying the average child, the average teenager is twice as likely to suffer from depression or anxiety, which is not to say that that's inherently a systemic problem, but rather we just need to be aware of this as educators, as youth development professionals. What are the things that we can do, even if it's just to address it as a quote unquote elephant in a room? But I just think it's it's a compelling thing because we see the brain chemistry parallel the opioid use.
Yep.
So if that's the case, we need to at least be mindful of how this impacts our routines at camp, how it impacts bedtime, meals, how many of them use their phones for an alarm in the morning. And now all of a sudden that's gone, right? So many different aspects of this that are tangible. And that's the piece that I feel like we need to latch onto in this industry. It's less about the culture of phones and more about what are we doing to replace all of these routines that you've established for the other 10 months of the year.
If they need, yes, absolutely. And what really struck me, Max, is like, we are educators and this is here to stay. Phones are here to stay and it's just going to expand. And what I want to speak to is sort of like the, how people get really, what I want to speak to is how people get really wound up about these advancements, because that's what it is, right? It's an advancement. And as educators, and I've been thinking a lot about this for my own program, as educators, I believe it's our duty to talk to the children about how, when, and in which situations they should use this technology. And mostly I'm talking about social media, because that's the big thing with my kids right now. Mostly it's social media. And we talk to our kids at camp about that all the time, how they use it, why they use it. And I've got to tell you, anyone who's listening, my camp is very touchy-feely social emotional learning, right? So that's what our zhuzh is. But like, I got to tell you, if you talk to children about social media, they are not using it the way you think they are. They're certainly not using it the way that you are. And they certainly do not see like the lines of danger that exist for them. So you say that depression's up. They don't even recognize that the way that they're interacting, the things that they're taking in are making them depressed. They don't, because they've never had any other, there's no control. Right. There's no true control group for them. Like you said, they grew up with this. It's just part of their situation. I do think that will change. Because by the way, I think phones technology here forever, social media isn't. And I don't mean it's going to end. I mean, it's going to necessarily change because of conversations like this, right? But as part of our role, it's actually talking to the kids about how they use this technology and the effects that it has on them, allowing them to be knowledgeable and aware so they can be intentional in their use. That's what I'm going for in my program.
Yeah. And we see it with teens who are on the front lines of this. Even there are these movements, these organizations. I'm thinking, I don't know anything about them. I've just heard of them, but places like Half the Story, Social Awakening, Big Talk, these organizations that exist to help combat some of the negatives of social media and some of the shortcomings that technology can have when it comes to our ability to interact with one another, right? There was a point in time in the world where we would be recording this podcast in a room together, right? Rather than in 3 different places. And so I think there's
2 different countries.
Two different, yeah, exactly. So there's something to be said for that, because obviously the opportunity to do this is incredible. We would not otherwise been able to get into a room together. It would have been a real challenge and involve flights and play all these other things.
Also, it's just because I got in a fight with someone about this the other day, because I'm always defending children's use of technology. I was out with a friend dinner. He's like, youth today, which do not start a conversation with me that begins youth today, because you are about to get double-barreled like shotgun to the face about what I think about youth today, which is not as negative as other people. It's like, youth today don't know how to interact. They're always staring at their phones. And I was like, how many friends did you have in high school? He's like, six. And I was like, these kids are maintaining dozens of relationships simultaneously and in constant communication. That skill is going to define the future economy. I don't know how to do that, right? I don't know how to have 60 really people I know well. I didn't grow up that way. That skill is going to drive the future. So when we talk about kids today, I'm always like, well, how do we take what they're giving us and sort of massage it for them? I think isn't that the role of the older generation, right? To safeguard and protect and not necessarily throw kids back in a time machine and take them to the 1930s. It's not going to work.
Mhm.
They in America, they banned blue jeans in school in the 50s because they didn't like the associations.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Now look at us.
Right.
The connotation of, yeah. I think even calling them blue jeans kind of sets us back in time a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every year, it's the same thing. Lots of hours spent working on the daily schedules, only for there to be mistakes, missed activities, and lots of stress. Why is it so difficult? There's got to be a better way. And there is. Camptivities, an activity scheduler made specifically for camps. Group scheduling or camper scheduling, we've got you covered. Different day schedules, no problem. Auto scheduling, elective scheduling, batch scheduling. Schedule the way that works for your camp. With over 60 reports, you'll be able to see the data easily. When a parent calls and says, my camper didn't get an activity week 1, pull up the group activity tracker and see exactly when that activity was scheduled all summer long. Modernize the way you do activity scheduling. Make it easier to collaborate with team members. Get rid of the mistakes and make sure your campers are getting to all of your activities. We'd love to show you the next big thing in camp. Don't wait until the new year. Now's the time to find a better way to schedule and save 15% for the first year. Let us help you get away from your desk and back out in camp. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat.
Exclusive to CampHacker listeners. Generate fresh ideas for activities, staff training, marketing campaigns, and more with UltraCamp's plug-and-play AI prompt guide. Download it for free at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Managing your camp shouldn't be a trade-off between quality and cost. With UltraCamp, you get powerful, user-friendly tools that are designed to fit your camp's budget, no compromises necessary. UltraCamp offers clear and flexible options, simple pricing that you can trust, low minimum entry, clear pricing with no hidden fees, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts. Get back to what you love. UltraCamp helps you spend less time on admin tasks and more time creating unforgettable camp experiences. Ready to see if UltraCamp is the perfect fit? Schedule your free personalized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. And so I'd like to come back, Max, to the idea of a detox for this. So if, I'm asking, but I'm assuming that that means that we do something intentional to get kids ready. There are plenty of camps listening who have a no tech policy for however long their sessions are. And is your point about how we get kids ready for that?
Yeah, it's a good, that is kind of the next step, right? And I think to what I kind of alluded to at the very top, I was like, how can we do this? What does this look like? And then again, through kind of like happenstance in that world of, again, social media being something that can connect people, I encountered Ilana Winter. And she has, a family therapist, has been working also in the New York City Department of Education, doing social work, other things like that. But she basically founded her own practice where she works with families, specifically in either one-on-one or small group settings, to work with their parents and the children about how to kind of create a little bit more of a regimented plan around phone and device usage. And it's not to say it's being policed, right? Again, we're really focusing more on, for lack of a better term, like the chemical side of this, right? The brain chemistry. Like, what are the things we can do to actually help this child's ability to develop and mature as they're intended to, physiologically, biologically, not really with regards to like social or cultural constructs. That's not really what this is about. For some, it probably is, but I'm really more focused on the kind of the actual nuts and bolts of this. And so she founded Ilana Winter Coaching. Highly recommend people check that out. She was actually with me at a camp conference this past spring. We spoke to a couple hundred people about what building out this roadmap for camps could look like. Generally speaking, the program that she does, she may wind up texting me after this and being like, that's not the right number. But I think it's really around 10 to 12 weeks. And obviously for camps, that's not necessarily sustainable. That's longer than many of our programs run. And so we kind of started to like funnel down what is the realistic objective of this, which again, as I talked about before, really comes back to routines and really comes
Yeah,
back to kind of easing that landing, that smooth landing into those first couple
exactly.
days. And so we developed like 3 weeks. What could this look like? I know she's worked with a couple of camps and a couple of organizations already to kind of share with their families what
Yeah.
they can do.
Yeah.
She also could work with camps one-on-one to develop something that camps could turn around and give to people and say, here is our, technology, our digital detox, right? Here's our digital detox plan. And you can start doing this 3 weeks before the summer, 1 week before the summer, whatever makes sense to you as a family, but at least as camps, what an amazing opportunity to have like kind of a value add that goes along with registration, right? That goes along with signing up for the camp. It's not just you get this summer experience, but we always
Yes,
say,
yes,
right,
yes.
we're partnering with families to provide year-round development. We just happen to really focus a lot of that in those summer months. But here's an opportunity that we can actually help that transition both in and out of camp.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to really be mindful of, because it's developing that plan doesn't need to be this labor-intensive, crazy process. It's really about identifying where are the trouble spots that we typically find campers having the most issues. When we kind of looked at it, and it was mostly qualitative data, so to speak, talking with camp
Sure.
directors, kind of getting anecdotal information, it was routines mostly related to bedtimes, both in the
Yeah.
morning and particularly at night,
Yeah.
meal times, conversations at meal times, the need to like rush through a meal because that's just like a new thing, more so than I've ever really seen it. And then also kind of transition or like difficult periods during a day. So if a camper is ever in a large group setting where they don't feel like they want to participate, normally they'd have the ability to kind of be right here
Sure.
and have that as like a crutch. That goes away. And so then the propensity for or potential to act out comes up. So that's where I kind of look at it from, what does that
Yeah.
digital detox plan look like? It really has to be focused in and then developed from there.
Let me ask you a quick question. What's the parents' role in this? Like you'd said, like it's something that could be delivered to parents.
Yeah.
How responsive do you think they're going to be to that? I mean, and Travis can talk to you more about this than I can, but like parents don't read anything you send home, right? They don't
Yeah.
open any email, and they don't care to hear from you until it's arrival day. So what's the plan there? How do you pull
Yeah.
parents into that plan?
I think right now, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if I have a perfect answer for that. I think I may not even have a good answer for that. My current
Just
thought,
answer, Max. Don't
Yeah.
qualify it. Just
well, it's just
tell
in the
us.
sense that like, because I think it is so speculative for families, to your point,
Mm.
right? They're going to look at something like this and be like, well, that seems like a lot of work, and not do
Mm.
it, right? Or not even look at it to begin with. But then day 4 or day 2, when there's that issue, it's almost kind of like retroactive. It's almost like I told you so as a training tool, right? Which is not ever a great thing to do.
Mm.
But I think it might take some massaging. I think the real opportunity, and this is probably the best answer I can provide, is the real opportunity is to let parents know that something like this exists. It is
Right.
almost in some ways a marketing tool, an additional value, like something else that you get along with, you register for camp. I remember one of the camps I ran, with registration from camp, you also got a backpack, 5 t-shirts, XYZ, right? And you get this awesome toolkit that you can use to help your child ease their way into the summer, and
Right.
something you could even use during the school year if you need to have a better method for kind of managing the dopamine hit, so to speak.
Right. Max, you said you wrote an article about this. Where can we find that? I'll make
Yeah,
sure
the
it goes in
article
show
was
notes.
in Camping Magazine.
Okay.
I want to say that came out this past winter. It was either like January, somewhere between January and April.
Okay.
I don't
Fair.
remember the exact.
I'm looking
time.
behind me because my stack of Camping Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
I want to dig it out.
Yeah, it might be
see
in
that one.
there. It's
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was 24, and I think it was, I want to say is there a March April edition? Is that how that? I know they're bi-monthly, but I think it's in there, and I
We'll
co-wrote
find
it.
the
So
link
if
and
you
we'll put
want
it in the show notes so that people can check it
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
And people should check it out. This is fascinating.
Mhm.
And I think it's fascinating. Also, I think it's the cutting edge of where camp is going, what camp has to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have to stop complaining about technology and start like understanding that it's the standard, it's the norm, and now what do we do?
Exactly. Exactly.
It is unfortunately among the many issues that camp directors have to seriously consider about how the camp of the future works.
Mhm.
Max, thank you so much for bringing this topic. There's obviously much more we could talk about it, but within this time space, I'm grateful for all of this thoughtful discussion. So
Yeah,
appreciate that.
appreciate it. It's cool to share and chop it up.
This means that we are ready for our tool of the week.
Tool of the week.
I'm going to start us off today. And what I have is a book that I'm currently reading. This fits several themes from the last year. A book called Unapologetically ADHD. There, I can bring it into focus if you're watching on YouTube. Yes, my life too, Max. And it is an interesting framework for planning. And I'm still working through it, but it is really good. These folks have a podcast as well. Nikki Kinzer and Pete D. Wright have a podcast as well, but this is their book that just came out, and it talks about breaking stuff down and setting yourself up with the tools. Thinking of ADHD tools, so that's my recommendation. My spin-off thought on that is, I don't know if either of you have seen the Roll for Sandwich on TikTok. There's the guy who's obviously a D&D player who has a little dice tower, and he has all these cards. So for the bread, you roll a d20, and he picks from all these different kinds of breads. There's like 5 or 6 different layers with different dice depending on what his number of ingredients that he has to choose from, and they're often totally disgusting. And every once in a while, he's like, "Oh, this one's actually good." I keep thinking I want to make one of those for concentration tools, like my techniques for getting myself to concentrate. And there's some good stuff here. The finish of that thought is that I have a little box on my desk with a little sign, and I just roll a d20 and see, okay, that's the one I'm going to try today. Or I have to have 2 of them combined to make it work today. But there's some good stuff on breaking that down in that book, Unapologetically ADHD by Nikki Kinzer and Pete D. Wright. Max, what's your tool?
Yeah, so for anybody who knows me, they know that I am a low tech person, which is obviously, given today's topic, both ironic and coincidental. But I joke with people all the time, like, I can barely spell AI, let alone figure out how to use it. Like, this is not my wheelhouse at all. Like, it is not. I've never used it, quite honestly, until a couple of weeks ago. My friend Lucy, who I actually had a color war camp wedding that I helped put together. It was an amazing time.
Okay.
But we worked at camp together. She is someone who is always kind of up that mindset of like, wouldn't this be cool? What do I do? She works with a lot of technology right now in her day to day. And I was with her staying over a couple weeks ago, and she was like, is there anything out there that like can really just like spit out? She's using this term, and my tool is Quad AI, if people are familiar. It is an artifact building AI tool, which is something that apparently means it makes models rather than just generative text. And we literally created an entire camp program, schedule, activities included, for a 39 group camp program that featured, I think we had 22 unique activities, and we typed in the parameters. We said, each group has to have this activity X number of times. Soccer has to have 2 groups per activity, so you have enough numbers for that. Everyone has to spell out everything, and it spit out a camp schedule in about 8 minutes. Full schedule for a summer, and my jaw hit the floor. And it also terrified me in so many ways.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, but at the same time, the concept of this artifact builder tool, you could kick in any definition into this Claude software, and it just lays it out for you. In visual, not necessarily just text. So you actually see the schedule built out, and you can tell it how you want it to look. And she did all the typing, because again, I can't even pretend to type into an AI program, but she figured it all out, and we put in the info, and it spat this thing out, and I still haven't recovered.
Well, our job here is done. And by that, I mean, literally mean, our job here is done.
It is a great tool. And our last episode, Chris and I were talking about AI and its use in camp. So I appreciate that aligns with it. And it's a nice specific tool as well. That's great. Thank you, Max. Chris?
I'm going to make this one quick. There is one appliance that people use and they hate it every minute and every second that they're using it, and that is your printer. Printers, to be frank, suck. And through my whole life, buy printers. They're unusually expensive. They strangely just like don't work when they don't want to, and no one can help you ever. You have to just throw it out and buy a new one. And I'm sick of it. So when I found Brother printers, it was like, oh my gosh, it's changed my life. Let me just tell you something. It's gonna be real quick. Brother black and white laser printer, it's less than $200, and it will change your entire life. I've had this thing for like 6 years. I've changed the toner once. I don't know what else to say other than if you are ever frustrated with your printer, and I know you are, then you should check out Brother printers. The color printers and the inkjet printers, inkjet has its own problems, but I cannot recommend Brother black and white laser printer enough. Which model? Doesn't matter. They're all good.
Check in the show notes. I'll find one that's highly recommended and we'll put it in there. Yeah, I think most people who are frustrated with printers are inkjet users. When you move to a black and white one, you just give up. You realize you're going to have to pay someone else to print color on the very rare times that you need color. And yeah, I'm in exactly the same boat as Chris.
Yeah.
So I also greatly appreciate my Brother printer. Chris, if people have questions and follow up, how can they get in touch?
Just check with your friends because we are all hanging out without you. I'm kidding. You can email me at chris@planetchris.net. Or if you want to see what my life is like, you can follow me at planetchris1 on Instagram.
Perfect. And Max, how about you? How can, if people are interested in your work and potentially hiring you, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, again, very low tech. So the easiest way is probably just email, which is just max dot my last name, CLAMAN @gmail.com. And then we can take it from there.
How is emailing you low tech? You know what I mean?
It's low tech, and I guess it's low tech in the sense that is the capacity, the highest capacity I have, technologically speaking.
Okay.
I don't have social media, I don't have the website, anything like that. I'm pretty much word of mouth, smoke signals, some pigeons, but that's about it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Well, we're super grateful to have you, Max. Thank you.
For sure, Max.
No, I appreciate you having me on. It's great to chat and catch up. I'm looking forward to hearing this all and all the future episodes as well.
Right on. Thank you. I want to take a sec just before I let folks go. First of all, to say, if you have topics that you'd like us to talk about, please, Travis@gocamp.pro. Again, you don't have to feel like we'll invite you to do that show, but you don't have to be the one that talks about it. It can be just something you've been thinking about and worried about, and we can find the people to talk about it. And so I'd appreciate that, Travis@gocamp.pro. I also want to take just 1 second and highlight another Go Camp Pro podcast called The Pudding. It is our podcast that Dr. Mandy Baker and I do about camp research, and we call it The Pudding because the proof is in the pudding. And it is a show that we're super excited about. Just launched our second season, have some really interesting interviews with camp researchers in lots of different fields, and some reviews of interesting papers coming out. Reviews of research papers. I'm letting Mandy lead that conversation. But I am excited for this season and thought we had a great first season. If you want to look up, search your podcast app for The Pudding. And if you want to find the show notes, go to camphacker.tv/podcast. And thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey Camp Pros, we love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.